So let's talk about the analytics function within the new OBT variety selection tool. This is for when you've gone to the OBT website or you've gone to that green book in the past to look for those single location, statewide tables, or multiple year tables, those 2 and 3 year tables that we've released. All of those tables can now be found in one place in a very easily searchable format on our analytics function. So again, let's start. We're starting on the dashboard and make sure that we have our crop selected. In this case, we want to select corn. I'm going to go over here and click on the analytics function. Initially, if you've never visited the site before, this is going to show blank. If you visited the site in the past, this has already been populated with data, but this is the first time we're coming to this website. So it's going to show up blank. What we're going to want to do is make sure that we're starting with our initial trial year, in this case, the current year, 2020, and then we're going to select the data fields that we want to look at. So when we're looking at corn, there's a couple of different fields I want to look at. I want to look at yield. I want to look at test weight. I want to get height, and I want to look at top yield group. So I want to know whether or not that hybrid was in the top yield group or not in the top yield group for the last year and over the last 3 years or however many years. So you're going to click on those. You're going to select 4 here. Once you've done that, you're going to see this Rebuild Analytics button. This always shows up if you change the data fields that you're looking for or if you add or subtract new data fields. It just is letting the database calculate it or recalculate the values in the background. Anytime you see it, just go ahead and click on it. That's going to allow the database to pull all that data in, and then we're going to start seeing tabled formats of all that data that we're looking for. So you see across the top now that we have a bunch of different tabs. We have a tab for yield, for top yield group, test weight, and here year height. So these are all the metrics that we asked for, and we can add or subtract these by clicking on this data fields drop down like we did earlier. So we're starting with yield. Right now it's sorted by hybrid alphabetically. And then you're seeing that we have yield values for 2020 for all 9 of our locations from Beaufort to Yadkin. Those are grouped into regions, so Piedmont through Tidewater. Then those are all averaged together for both our statewide table, so that's that single year statewide table you're used to seeing on the OBT website, also grouped together by regions. So you can see how it did in Tidewater, Coastal Plain, and Piedmont, specifically for 2020. In addition to all of that, that data is also grouped by region and by statewide for the last 3 years. So this is 2018 through 2020 averages of yield across Tidewater, Coastal Plain, and Piedmont, and then combined across the state for statewide. And what's important here, and I want you to keep in mind, is that you're seeing these Y and L numbers showing up in our multi-years. What this is telling us is how many years that hybrid was in the test and how many locations it was tested in. So just like looking at 2 and 3 year tables, the more years and more locations we test at, the more confident you can feel about that variety's performance year over year every year. Here we're seeing that this top hybrid was in the test 2 years across 16 locations. And this bottom one or next one is in the test 1 year at 9 locations. Now again, this is sorted by alphabetically. We don't want to necessarily look at this alphabetically. We want to look at it highest to lowest. And it's very easy to do that. Just go over here, up here to statewide or any number of these headers that you're interested in and click on it. And that'll automatically sort that value from highest to lowest. If you click on it again, it'll reverse it and sort it back from lowest to highest. But we want to look at highest lowest for yield. And you can see all these different colors showing up. Teal is our very highest yield. Anything in blue, from dark blue all the way down to light blue, is above average. Anything in yellow, from light yellow all the way down to dark yellow, is below average. And then red is our very minimum value. And it's easy to follow because that legend is shown here at the bottom. So if we go back to the top, the local seed 1307 is brand new in the test. It's only been in the test 1 year across 9 locations, but was #1 statewide across all of our tests. So this is both early, medium, and late hybrids all grouped together, and across all of our different locations. So we have a good one in this LC line. This red line has been in the test 3 years, 21 locations. And then we have this Dynagrow line 55 VC 80, so in the test 2 years, 16 locations. So we got a good cross section of different values through here. And I know what you're thinking, yeah, but I also like seeing, well, what was in the top yield group. Well, we can click on now our top yield group tab. And now you can see 100% means it was a top yield group, 0% means it wasn't. So for each one of these locations, you can see what was and wasn't in the top yield group by 100 or 0%. That's then averaged across regions and statewide for 2020. And more importantly, is averaged across those 3 years across regions and statewide. So now we can look at what we've been calling a consistency value. For instance, this DKC 5982, top yield group and the Tidewater did really well in Tidewater, was top yield group in one location in the coastal plain. This blank means that we didn't have data for that location, we didn't release data. And really good in the Piedmont, was top yield group in all three locations of the Piedmont. Averaged out across the year, statewide was 87.5. Now, it was only in the test 1 year, so it's showing up at 87.5. We scroll down here a little bit. Here's one at 53.8, the C Consultants 1188 line. Now, it's been in test 2 years, 13 locations, so we can see that it really likes her. It's been a top yield grid in the coastal plain. That's kind of been almost its preference based off of performance. That's not just raw yield levels, actually consistency of performance. And then we've got some in 3 years, 18 locations as well. So you can look at yield levels here, and we can look at top yield group. And we can do the same thing for test weight and ear height, or any number of different metrics you're looking for. And you're saying to yourself, well, maybe I want to look at more than 3 years. Well, you can. You can go to this gear icon at the top, click on it, and then you can change the number of years that you're looking at. We're currently, it's defaulted to 3 years. We're always going to default it to 3 years because that's typically as far back as we've gone. But you can look at 4 years in this data set. That's the maximum we can go back to right now. But moving forward, you'll have the option to go back a little bit further. Or you can go down as low as 2 years if you wanted to. But that's going to be defaulted to 3 years. You can change it here if you want to, and then hit this reload icon to reload it. Close that out. Now, once you've found some hybrids that you really like based off the data here, let's go back to yield. We like this local seed line. It's kind of new, so we're gonna have to take a look at it. This Dynagrow line has done pretty well. This DCAB 6599 line has done really well. And let's look at this LG line. It's a new line as well, at least to the test. So we got 4 hybrids here that we've selected. We can look at the specific information for each of these hybrids by clicking on this box or by clicking on the hybrid name itself. But if you click in the blank area next to the hybrid name, it'll highlight it, and then we can go back to that compare hybrid tool that we've seen before. So you click on each name, highlight, and then you see this little crossed arrows icon that says compare selected varieties. That'll take you to the variety comparison. And now we can look at the specific details. We can look at relative maturity for all these different hybrids, their yield level, and everything else that we've seen with the compare variety function before. I think this is by far and away my most favorite part of the tool, is that we have that functionality where we can go back and forth between those tables that you're used to, but drill down to the very nitty-gritty details in a very quick manner. You don't have to search through a lot of different tables anymore. It's a very fast, very easy flowing process. Going back to the analytics page, one thing I do want to mention, a little bit more of an advanced side, is you're going to see the score averages feature here. Let's say that you're wanting to look at all of these different metrics at the same time. Right now, I can look at yield, or I can look at top yield group, or I can look at test weight, but I'm looking at them individually. Let's say I want to look at them all together, and I want to weight them because I think yield is very important. Whether it's in the top yield group or not, it's kind of sort of important to me. Test weight's really important, and then ear height is really important to me. And the way you can do that is by going to this little icon here that looks like a scale, and it says adjust data field weight. You click on that, and now you can see these numbers show up at the bottom. Okay, so we really want to look at yield, and don't worry about the number. The higher the number, just keep in mind, the higher the number, the more importance you're putting on that selection criteria. So I really want yield to be my primary driver. Let's make that a 2 or a 3. Let's make it high. Whether or not it's a top yield group or not, it's fine, but it's kind of minor importance to me. Yield is my primary driver. Top yield group is nice if it has it. Definitely want my test weight in there, so let's bump that score up to about a 2. And ear height is nice. It doesn't have to be as important as yield or test weight, but I want something with an inverted, so I want lower, shorter height, right? So we got to invert that score by hitting that icon there. And now we can look at our weighted score averages by clicking on the tab here. And now, just like we did before, we can sort by statewide or any region that you want to, and look what we see. Now we have a good weighting of values for all these different lines. What this is saying is that if you're looking at yield as your primary driver, and it's good if it's in a top yield group, but it's not necessary. You really want it to have good test weight and you want it to have short ear height. That local seed 1577 is a good candidate. CCAB 6599, Dynagraph V54 VC14. So this is just another way of looking at the data. You can definitely look at it raw, just like we were doing earlier. But if you're wanting to look at everything at the same time, there's ways of weighting that so you can kind of get some different views or different options for hybrids. You can definitely use any kind of weight values you want here. And this is a more advanced feature. So any questions about this, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you through this.